All right, guys. My top two biggest regrets while living as an expat in the Philippines. Let's get it. Hey, how's it hanging, beautiful people? Doc back again, once again, actually utilizing this little microphone that I got here. So I can only hope and pray that the volume is coming through as loud and clear as the good Doc's beautiful smile. But today I wanted to talk to you guys about something that people often ask me, but that I never really have gotten into detail about, So I'm having a reflective moment, but I also wanted to be able to give you guys my top two reasons or biggest regrets that I've ever had as an expat living in the Philippines. Now, there are many. There are many stories that I can share, many stories that I have already shared that have provided learning lessons for myself, and I think learning lessons for anybody looking to travel or anybody looking to, make the Philippines their home in any way, shape, or form. But today I want to talk to you guys real quick about just my top two biggest regrets, and if there's anything that I can add into it, I will gladly feel free to, fill in some stories where I deem it necessary. So, without further ado, let's not waste too much time. All right, in descending order from 2 to 1, my second biggest regret in the Philippines was not learning one particular language in the Philippines. Now, a lot of people have asked me, Doc, the Philippines is normally an English-speaking country, so why do I need to learn the language? You don't, okay? You don't. It's not a requirement by law. But let me tell you exactly why I have or utilize this or see this as a regret on my behalf. When I first came to the Philippines back in 2005, I was super excited. I had no idea what my experiences were going to be like. If it was anything like the experience that I had living as a child in Okinawa, Japan, living in Asia period at that time, I knew it was going to be awesome. So when I first came here, I touched down in Manila, spent a lot of time in Manila. And so I felt that, if I'm going to learn one language, I should learn Tagalog. Of course, as many of you guys know, I'm not going to treat you like you're dumb, but Tagalog is the national language of the country. So basically, anywhere that you go in the Philippines, they should know how to speak in Tagalog. But that's not always the case, ladies and gentlemen, and I can really attest to that. Whether they know how to speak in Tagalog or not, they may not always utilize it. For example, granted, I came into Manila back in 2005, but when I came back to live the next year later, I lived in Davao City. As many of you guys know, Davao City, they speak Visayan. That is the dominant language in the area, which is probably on even keel with Cebuano, damn near the exact same language spoken in Cebu. So it really didn't impress anybody that I knew how to speak Tagalog, all right? As a matter of fact, when I visited Cebu, I'm trying to speak to them in Tagalog and they're not impressed at all. They're like, would rather speak to me in English or in their own language than speak to me in Tagalog. So imagine trying to learn Tagalog when I first got here, trying to put together pieces of Visayan. It kind of became one big cluster. And I was kind of mixing languages and stuff like that. And it really did present to me as one of my biggest regrets, because although you are not required by law to learn the language, guys, it helps a lot. And I shouldn't have to tell you that. It really helps a lot, especially in conversations with females. I mean, of course, there is the international language of love, or the international language of getting you some, Everybody understands that, you could do a couple things to get by, more so for my 2 weak millionaires out there. But I think that it does pay dividends if... Yeah, guys, as I was saying, I think it really does pay dividends for you to be able to actually learn the language. I mean, there is nothing that turns a Filipino on, in my personal opinion, more than a foreigner that can actually speak to them in their native language. I mean, I got a lot of guys that say, yeah, man, I plan on spending a lot of time in Cebu, plan on spending a lot of time in Davao. I'm going to learn Visayan, I'm going to learn Cebuano, or I plan on spending a lot of time in AC, and I plan on, learning Tagalog or whatever. I think they still speak Tagalog down in AC. Again, there are certain dialects, over 2,000 plus, I guess, 1,000, 2,000 plus dialects in the country. So I'm telling you, it pays dividends to figure out the area you're going to be in, and it actually would help you more than it could hurt you to actually learn the language if you choose to do so. Again, I'm not saying it's a requirement by law. I'm just thinking that it definitely helps to hear and understand what people are saying about you, just in case they be trying to talk that ish or trying to get over on you. At least you can, meet them at their level and say, hey, that's not how it goes. And of course, it sounds good for you to be a foreigner speaking another language. I think that turns women on. To be honest with you, that's my biggest regret, because I know whatever little Tagalog or whatever little Visayan that I do speak, man, you should see how these girls react when I do it. I mean, they go crazy for the doc, man. And I'm like, damn, had I mastered this shit, man, I probably would have got more girls than I did. Never mind. Anyways, but like I said, goes back to the idea of being my top two. Out of two, the second in descending order, not learning the language or being fluent in one particular language. Again, I know enough to get by, but I think I should have actually dedicated myself to learning, at least committing myself to learning at least the language of either Visayan or Tagalog, and I never actually did. All right, guys, so now let me get into my number one, Namera Isa, my number one regret about being an expat, traveling, whatever, being an expat kid, whatever, living abroad in the Philippines. My number one regret as a foreigner in the Philippines is not starting my YouTube channel when I was in college. Okay. Now, I spoke about this before, maybe in an earlier video. It was probably within my first 10 videos I ever did when I started my channel. It was very brief, and I've talked about this maybe once or twice on a live stream before, but this was important to me. Now that I reflect back on my life, where I was at that time, and the fact of what could have potentially been now had I started it back then, I hands down would have been the biggest in the sector. No doubt in my mind. I would have been the first. Again, we're talking about 2006, 2007. I think YouTube popped off in maybe about 2010, something to that effect. So about 2010, that would have put me at about my sophomore or junior year in college, undergrad. I had the world at my hands at that time. Imagine, college kid. I could have did interviews with all of my college friends, my college students, and I mean, hell, I could have. YouTube is marketing. Shout out to the YouTuber who said that. If you watch this video, he said that. Shout out to him, cause he ain't never lied, man. We are in the entertainment business. Had I been the guy to interview my college classmates, my beautiful Filipino college classmates, I would have had hands down the biggest channel, at least in my mind. I mean, maybe that's true, maybe that's false. But in my mind, I would have said Doc would have killed it. Doc would have killed it. Now again, with the transition and what I'm trying to do with my channel and the direction in which I'm trying to take it, I think that it has potential to grow still. But I think back and reflect, and I think to myself, well, damn. If Doc would have started back in 2010, I would have been at least one of the first to actually be the one consistent, because it would have had to been consistent, making videos about, just walking around my campus, talking to because I had a lot of beautiful classmates, guys. And of course, there's nothing that turns me on more than a uniform. And, we had a little sexy uniform and stuff. I mean, it was there. I mean, I had a gold mine right there at my fingertips. But if you want to know the reason why I didn't start back then, it's very simple. I was very private. I was very personal. And I was still young. A lot of things, I didn't want y'all knowing what the hell I was doing, okay? I'll be honest with you. Doc was into some stuff, okay? I'm not perfect. I told you guys, I'm not perfect. And a lot of what I did at that particular moment in time, just coming up in the world, I was not very much the guy to put that type of stuff out there on the tube. Because again, I could have probably gotten my classmates and stuff in trouble. For example, imagine I want to go on a hangout with my friends and stuff after a nice long day and then record it hey, look at my classmates. We're out here getting fucked up and we're in our uniforms and stuff. That would have been bad, okay? So that was probably one of the reasons that I really didn't put out information like that back then or put out stuff like that at that time. Also, like I said, Doc was always into something and I was very private. Again, living in the Philippines, as many of you guys know, the lifestyle can become very redundant, very repetitive. So again, I get up, I go to school, I come home. Get up, go to school, come home. Get up, go to school, come home. there's only so much activity that I could have been able to provide for you guys. I mean, again, I was a broke college kid. I wasn't traveling or going to Cebu or going to where the hell else did I go? My girl's place. I forgot the name of the place. Or, you know, Cebu and all those places. I wasn't really traveling around. I was literally school, home, school, home. So I felt like thinking about it back then, it would have been boring. But the one thing that I realized about YouTube, guys, content is all that really matters. People just want to see. A dude can make a video walking down the street in any foreign country and it's going to get views. As a matter of fact, I remember specifically, I did a view of walking around Saint Mesa. I was in Saint Mesa. That was about that time. That was still in season 2, back towards the beginning after I transitioned into my new Airbnb at that time. My first one, was my second Airbnb. That video did pretty damn good for my, for a channel of my size. That video did good. I think as the last time I looked at it, it was like 3,000 views. I was literally doing nothing but just walking from where I stayed at and went to St. Mesa Mall. That's it. So again, the most redundant content that's the shit that people like. And like I said, you're gonna start to understand that YouTube marketing and all that stuff. But again, I regret it now only because the saying, man, if I knew now what I knew back then, Doc would have been able to literally not have to work ever. I think I could have been able to live comfortably off of YouTube. I would have been able to create an earning for myself because I'm very cheap. Y'all know that I'm very cheap. So I would have been able to create a living for myself off of YouTube. I probably would have never left the Philippines. I probably would have never had to leave the Philippines. I probably, like I said, I had a business there. I ended up letting the business go only because I was focusing on my dissertation part of my doctorate degree program, which took up a whole year of my time, doing all of my research and stuff like that. So again, there were things that were put in place that I had to let go of. And unfortunately, I was just not at that time that guy. And now it kills me on the inside, and that would probably be my biggest regret. I do believe that at the time, had I put out an actual channel, it didn't even have to be as consistent as I am now, or as I was before. But if I would have put the videos out then, good Doc at 18, about 18, 19. Hands down, I'd be the biggest in the sector. No doubt in my mind. But again, you can't cry over spilt milk. You have to be able to accept your regrets, move forward, figure out how you can make it work for you. Because again, my mindset at the time, even though I'm a marketing student, my mindset at the time was not about putting my personal life on camera, telling you guys about me, letting you guys into my life. I was very personal, very private. Shit, I didn't want y'all to know who I was getting it in with. Shit, that was personal. That's private, And again, at that time, you didn't want to come off as that dude, recording yourself, hanging out with, well, no, at that time, I think that's pretty much what YouTube is all about. Recording yourself with beautiful women. I told you, man, Doc could have made a killing. And we're talking about educated college girls. Not just your average run-of-the-mill lady from the barangay or the province, man. I had a plethora of them at my disposal. Good times, people, good times. But that's why I regret it the most, because again, it would have been something to at least be able to chronicle. Like, look, man, this is what I had. This is what I had access to. And if you come to the Philippines, you have access to this too. Bruh, I could have sold courses. My Patreon would be popping. Actually, Patreon only came out recently. But yo, man, you think about what you could have created for yourself back then and where it could be right now. And you're like, God damn, Mike, you really fucked up. That's how I feel. And that's why I regret it the most. And if you ask me, that's truly it, guys. And I didn't mean to be on here rambling forever and ever. And I pray that you guys made it through to this part of the video. I appreciate you being a part of the squad. I appreciate you being a part of the team. Good things are coming soon. If they haven't already come, they are coming soon. Trust me when I tell you, Doc is behind the scenes trying to figure out some really, really good shit. Okay? I got you. I'm trying to figure out a nice new direction. Same path, new direction. If that makes any sense to you. more fresh content for sure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me not keep you on very long. It has been fun. It has been real, but the good doc's got to get in. So with that being said, I am officially out. At least knuckle, but I love, which means we gotta go. But as always, love you guys. Mga kita, mabuhay. Peace.